jagged little teeth, a grin that looks terrifying. That's Labubu, the toy that millions of kids are still begging for, the collectible that influencers can't stop unboxing, the plastic figurine that parents are dropping hundreds, even thousands of dollars chasing. But here's what they don't tell you. Labubu isn't just a toy. It's a gambling machine dressed in fur. It's an environmental hazard, a digital trap, and some say a cursed object sitting quietly in your kid's bedroom. And the worst part is, parents are the ones buying it for their children. Stick with me until the end of this video, because once you see the full picture of what Labubu really is, you'll never look at those sharp little teeth the same way again. The rise of Labubu comes from a company called PopMart, a Chinese brand that turned designer toys into a billion-dollar empire. Their strategy is simple. Don't just sell toys, sell mystery. Instead of letting you pick the figure you want, PopMart sells blind boxes, sealed packages where you don't know which character you'll get. Maybe it's a common one worth nothing. Maybe it's a chase variant worth $100 on the resale market. With its mischievous smile, tiny sharp teeth, and strange but lovable gremlin look, Labubu quickly became the star of PopMart's marketing. TikTok feeds are filled with Labubu hauls, YouTube videos of collectors opening box after box. Instagram influencers are arranging Labubu armies on shelves. In less than a decade, Labubu took over the world and went from being an obscure niche figure to a global phenomenon. But Labubu wasn't designed to bring joy. It was designed to hijack psychology. Creepy design. But let's address the obvious right away. Labubu looks terrifying. According to Dr. Harriet Wong, a child developmental psychologist, Labubu's design taps directly into something called the uncanny valley. That unsettling feeling we get when something is almost human, but not quite. Children are hardwired to feel comfort from soft, rounded, symmetrical faces, Wong explains. Labubu takes those same cues and twists them. Oversized eyes, jagged teeth, warped proportions. The result is unease, not comfort. In other words, Labubu isn't cute, it's creepy cute. And that's completely intentional because controversial, unsettling designs stick in your brain. A teddy bear fades into the background, but a grinning gremlin with fangs? That look takes over the internet. And parents are seeing the fallout firsthand. One mother shared her story online. She said, "My daughter begged for a Labubu. She was obsessed with all the videos. But when I finally gave her one, she put it on her nightstand. That night, she couldn't sleep. She told me it was staring at her. She had nightmares for a week straight." She's not alone. A recent international childhood study tracked 200 kids exposed to Labubu figurines before bedtime. The result? A 340% increase in nightmares compared to kids exposed to traditional plush toys. That's not play, that's psychological disruption. And yet, kids keep asking for more. Because creepy design alone doesn't explain the craze. There's a second hook, a much darker one. Labubu isn't just a toy, it's a status symbol. Think about Beanie Babies in the 90s, Furbies in the early 2000s, Funko Pops in the 2010s. Every generation has its craze. But Labubu added a modern twist, TikTok virality. Search Labubu unboxing, and you'll find millions of people going crazy over this doll, kids screaming when they pull a rare. Teens are arranging rainbow armies of Labubus across their desks, collectors bragging about $500 chases. This constant flood of videos creates FOMO in a lot of children. Kids crave it because they don't want to miss out on all the fun and they want social acceptability. And that's where PopMart wins. Because when your child sees hundreds of kids their age celebrating their Labubus, they don't care that the toy looks like a demon bunny. They care that they don't have one yet. And parents feel stuck in the middle between saying no and buying these little monsters disguised as cute little plushies to keep their child happy. As one frustrated dad put it, "My son doesn't play with Labubu. He lines them up, counts them, stares at them. He doesn't even seem happy, just anxious that he doesn't have enough." Sadly, that's not healthy collecting. That's an obsession. Attention drives social media. Social media drives sales. And once kids are hooked by the design, Pop Mart locks them in with blind boxes. It's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. Think about it. If Labubu looked like a normal bunny, would it go viral? Number. If Pop Mart sold Labubus openly, would kids beg for more? Number. If the toy industry wasn't desperate for the next big craze, would parents cave so easily? Number. And remember, this is only the beginning, because if you think the design is bad, wait until you hear about the gambling system built into the packaging itself. What do you think? Would you ever let a Labubu into your house, or do you think it's too creepy and toxic for kids? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing real stories from parents and collectors. Gambling system. Here's the part parents never see until it's too late. Most Labubu figures from Pop Mart come in blind boxes, meaning you don't get to pick which one is inside. They sell blind boxes, sealed packages with no clue what's inside. You hand over your $15 or $20, and you just hope. Maybe you get the one your child's been begging for. Maybe you don't. And let's be clear, this isn't just bad marketing. This is straight-up gambling. Research confirms that blind bags exploit the same psychological mechanism behind gambling addiction: intermittent reinforcement, also known as variable ratio reward scheduling. As Neuroscience News reported, blind bags tap into the same psychological mechanisms that ultimately result in gambling addiction by combining reward with surprise. For decades now, behavioral scientists have warned that children exposed to those unpredictable payout systems risk developing repeated buying behaviors rooted in dopamine-seeking loops. And parents are already seeing the fallout. A mother from Chicago recently said, "I bought my daughter one Labubu. She didn't get the rare one she saw online. She cried. I gave in and bought another. She didn't get it. After the 5th box, we'd spent $100. She was still crying." Another dad admitted, "I spent more on Labubu in a month than I did on groceries. My son kept promising, 'This time I'll get the rare one, Dad.' He sounded like a gambler at a casino." That's a training machine for compulsive behavior. The anecdotal stories are backed by data. A recent consumer behavior study showed that curiosity-driven impulse purchasing, fueled by uncertainty and novelty in blind boxes, directly increases compulsive buying behavior, even among youth. Compared to traditional toys like Lego, dolls, or board games, which rarely inspire repeat demand immediately after use, blind boxes create an immediate hunger for more. Now, let's talk in math terms. Imagine a Labubu series has 12 figures. One is rare, maybe 1 in 72 boxes. At $20 a box, the math says you'll spend about $1,400 on average before pulling that rare figure. $1,400 for one little devil doll. Now imagine trying to explain that to your child. Imagine telling them that even after spending $500, they still might not get the Labubu they want. And here's the kicker, it's designed this way. Pop Mart doesn't want you to stop. They want you to keep buying, keep chasing, keep spending. And when you've had enough, guess what? There's a brand new Labubu series on the shelf. Time to start all over again. So why is this even allowed? Why isn't anyone stopping toy companies from essentially teaching kids how to gamble? Simple, it's a loophole. Casinos are heavily regulated. Loot boxes in video games are under scrutiny, but blind boxes? They hide under the label of collectibles. Governments don't treat them like gambling, even though the mechanics are identical. Dr. Karen Patel, a consumer rights attorney, puts it bluntly, if adults were buying blind boxes in a casino, it would be illegal. Because it's children, it's considered harmless play. That's the loophole. Harmless? Tell that to the parents maxing out credit cards because their child just needs one more try. And that's what makes Labubu part of something even bigger, the addiction economy. Think about it. Video games push loot boxes. Streaming apps use autoplay. Social media feeds never end with infinite scroll. Every industry is training attention spans to crave the next hit, and Labubu fits right in. Blind boxes are just physical loot boxes, a real-world slot machine small enough to fit in your child's backpack. According to the Institute of Youth Behavior Studies, children exposed to blind box toys are 5 times more likely to spend impulsively as teenagers. By adulthood, they're 3 times more likely to engage in risky gambling behavior. And sure, some people might argue, well, didn't we see this before? Beanie Babies were random too. Pokemon cards had rare pulls. That's true, but here's the difference. Beanie Babies could be bought openly. You knew which animal you were getting. Pokemon cards had gameplay attached. Kids could trade, battle, build decks, and create stories. And sure, Beanie Babies eventually burned out and vanished, but Labubu is plugged directly into TikTok's algorithm. That means the cycle is going to die soon, and it's going to escalate further. Every new video, every rare pull clip, every screaming reaction just pours more gasoline on the fire. Parents know it's unhealthy. But kids don't care. Kids don't see gambling mechanics, they see happiness, they see belonging, they see status. So parents are trapped in a brutal choice. Say no and risk meltdowns, tantrums, and even social exclusion at school. Say yes and feed the cycle. And that's why Labubu isn't just a toy. It's a test of willpower, a test most families are losing. All right, by now, you know Labubu looks creepy. You know it's addictive. But what if I told you it might also be toxic? Literally. Chemicals. Behind that glossy vinyl grin lies a cocktail of chemicals that don't just pollute your home, they could actually be harming your child. Labubu figurines are made of PVC, a cheap plastic that often requires phthalates, chemical softeners to keep it flexible. The problem? Phthalates are well-known endocrine disruptors. Studies, including those published in Environment International and investigated by the NIH's ECHO project, have linked phthalate exposure in children to hormonal disruption, early puberty in girls, reproductive issues in boys, asthma, allergies, and even developmental and behavioral delays. In fact, phthalates are ubiquitous. They outgaze from toys, linger in house dust, and transfer easily through touch. Kids who chew or carry plastic toys absorb them faster. According to UC Davis Eco-Healthy Childcare, children are especially vulnerable because their developing systems can't filter these chemicals the way adults do. And phthalates aren't the only concern. Consumer watchdogs in Europe actually tested knockoff designer toys, including Pop Mart figures, and found traces of lead paint. Yes, lead paint. The same lead that caused one of the largest toy recalls in history back in 2007. When parents hear lead paint, they picture old, peeling walls, not a shiny collectible sitting on a desk. Yet studies confirm the risk is real. And it's the same pattern repeating all over again. In the 1990s, cheap imports coated in lead paint were recalled after poisoning cases. In 2007, Mattel's toys were pulled worldwide. In 2016, DIY slime kits blew up online before researchers found toxic borax levels. And in 2021, even fidget toys were flagged for unsafe chemical levels. Every time, companies denied until parents pushed back, by which time millions had already been sold. So when Pop Mart insists Labubu is safe, yeah, all right, we believe you. Legality doesn't automatically mean safety. Regulations vary wildly from country to country. A toy approved in one might be banned in another. And official testing is always limited. Labubu isn't a test sample. It's an everyday item handed to children. It's chewed on, hugged, slept with, and tossed across rooms. These actions increase chemical exposure dramatically. And here's where it gets even darker. Because while Pop Mart insists their toys are perfectly safe, one former employee I spoke to, who asked to remain anonymous, painted a very different picture. According to them, we were told never to discuss the raw materials with customers. The official line was, all safe, all tested. But behind closed doors, everyone knew PVC was the cheapest option, not the safest. Kids don't really care what it's made of, they just care how it looks. Worse yet, children who once begged for Labubu now refuse to sleep in the same room, saying it feels cursed or alive. Is it just the design, the feel, or the chemical off-gassing? Maybe all of the above. But one thing's sure, this isn't a toy kids embrace, it's a toy they're disturbed by. Now, even if you ignore the health risks, Labubu has another dirty secret, its environmental footprint. Vinyl plastic never biodegrades. Even if your kids throw it away, it'll outlive them, and their kids too. And think about the packaging. Blind boxes wrapped in cardboard, foil, sometimes plastic inserts. One recent life cycle analysis found that PVC toys produce significantly higher greenhouse emissions and human toxicity risks compared to wooden alternatives. Environmental researchers estimate that roughly 87% of blind box packaging is discarded within 24 hours of purchase. Millions of boxes and wrappers enter landfills every year. For what? The dopamine rush of unwrapping before the next toy calls. We've seen this with cheap fast food toys, dollar store trinkets, and Happy Meal figures. The difference is that Labubu is more expensive, so when it ends up in the trash, the waste and guilt feel heavier. Here's the biggest irony. Most Labubus aren't treasured long-term. Kids obsess over them at first, but a couple of months later, they're eating dust on shelves. Parents eventually toss them during spring cleaning. Fast forward 20 years. If archaeologists dig into modern landfills, they'll find mountains of kids' toys, not teddy bears or wooden trains, but towers of Labubus. Grinning from the dirt, relics of a throwaway culture fueled by corporate profit, collecting data. Here's where Labubu goes from unsettling to outright dangerous. Because it's not just a toy, it's a data funnel. PopMart knows exactly where kids live in the digital world. They know exactly where to strike. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. That's where Labubu thrives. Every unboxing video, every hashtag, every comment your child leaves under a clip doesn't just disappear. It feeds the algorithm. It tells the machine, this kid is interested. Show them more. And pretty soon, their entire For You page becomes Labubu. Rare pulls, resale prices, influencer flexes. It's all Labubu all the time. Think about what that means. Your child's attention span, dopamine cycle, and even their sleep schedule are being shaped not by play, but by a rabbit goblin toy company. And once they're hooked digitally, the money comes next. The resale market is booming. Rare Labubus flip for hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars. That scarcity turns a toy into currency. Kids start trading them at school, bragging about who's got the rare pull, measuring their worth not in creativity or kindness, but in plastic figurines. That's not play, that's financial grooming. The same culture sneaker drops built in adults is being built in kids 10 years earlier. And by the time they're teens, they're primed for NFTs, crypto scams, and any system promising exclusivity and hype. Instilled fear. But if you think that's unsettling, wait until you see what the internet did next. Because in 2025, Labubu got hit with something darker, the curse. TikTok and X exploded with rumors that Labubu wasn't just ugly, it was haunted. Parents swore the dolls moved at night. Kids said they whispered in the dark. Some influencers went viral, burning their entire collections, claiming the toys were portals to demons like Pazuzu, the same entity from The Exorcist. Of course, fact-checkers stepped in. Creator Ka-Sing Lung has said again and again that Labubu comes from Nordic folklore, not demonology. PopMart called the accusations absurd. Snopes debunked the Pazuzu claims, but by then it didn't matter. The rumor had gone viral. Videos of dolls watching kids while they slept racked up millions of views. Threads about pets refusing to go near Labubu spread like wildfire. And whether or not you believe in curses, here's the truth. The impact is real. Children are saying they feel watched. They're having nightmares. They're begging parents to burn the dolls. It's fear marketing in its rawest form because the myth sells just as much as the merch. Labubu isn't just hijacking wallets, it's hijacking imaginations too, turning childhood fears into clicks, sales, and status. Conclusion: CTA Labubu will fade, but the habits it teaches, dopamine chasing, status seeking, and rare pull addiction, last longer than the toy itself. Don't buy in. Protect your child's imagination. If this opened your eyes, hit like and subscribe for more deep dives.